Thank you very much, everybody. Oh, if I knew they had these teleprompters, I would have used them. I'm starting to love those teleprompters. You know, it's interesting. It's much easier when you have a teleprompter, and I'm getting great reviews with the teleprompters. When you stand up and you just go at it, it's much more exciting, however, I want to tell you. I think this crowd, I know the folks from Colorado and they're wild. I think if I used a teleprompter with this crowd, they'd be out of here fast. They'd say, let's get out of here. So I just want to thank, this is a tremendous crowd. We really appreciate it. Set up pretty quickly, well. So Colorado taught me a lot about politics. I learned a lot because polls came out that I was going to win Colorado and doing really well in Colorado and look good, and I was looking forward to it. And then all of a sudden, I didn't get the delegates. I said, but what happened to the vote? Do you remember? And I started to learn. You know, quick learner. I'm a quick learner, but that was an amazing week. Do you remember that? And we had some of you folks probably were out there with a little picketing, a little craziness, and I think they'll probably end up changing. I think they're going to change it next year, and I think you're going to go out and actually vote. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So you see what's happening, and I always say the system's rigged. It's rigged, and it's rigged against the people. It's not rigged for the special interest and the lobbyists and people that want certain things. I used to be one of them. Once I said, I'm running, all of a sudden I was like an outsider, a big outsider. But I'm glad I did it, because you know what we have? We have a movement going on like they haven't seen maybe ever in this country, according to what the pundits are saying. And I tell the story where numerous people, Bill O'Reilly, not so long ago, a few weeks ago, said, it may be the single greatest political phenomena that I've seen in my lifetime. He was talking about his lifetime. And I said, wow, that's a lot of phenomena you've seen. But numerous other people have said it too. And here we stand, and there you stand and sit. Oh, you're able to sit. Oh, that's good. See, we supply chairs. How many people do that? Nobody else supplies chairs. Nobody else does that. Only Trump. Only Trump. That's good. These lights are so bright, I can hardly see who's out. That's a good crowd of people. Wow. That's great. And thank you. Thank you very much. But the system is rigged. And, you know, we went through the primary system, and we did have problems here because, you know, it wasn't a vote. And somebody said I did really well in the polls, and as soon as they saw how well I did in the polls, they went to a delegate system where they just appoint the delegates, and it's all right. It all worked out well. It all worked out well. You know what? In the end, it doesn't matter. Here we are, right? It doesn't matter. And you have some terrific people in the state, very smart, very good, and they're going to really be helping us in November and before November, but I know how hard they're working in Colorado, and we're gonna have tremendous. I think we're gonna have a tremendous victory here. A couple of things before I really get going. Colorado, NRA, they're like synonymous. The NRA endorsed me. We're gonna save your Second Amendment 100%. We're saving your Second Amendment. And I have to tell you, the NRA, these are terrific people. They're terrific people. They love the country, and they take a lot of heat, and they don't have the easiest job, I will tell you, but they love the country. Wayne and Chris and all of the other people I've met from the NRA, and they gave me, I think, the earliest endorsement they've ever given under these circumstances, and they gave me a very early endorsement. I was very honored by it, but I've gotten to know them, and they love our country. Okay, they love the Second Amendment, but they love our country. So you have to remember that about the NRA, because what they do is not easy. It's not easy. And they're saving the Second Amendment for you. So just remember that. And I'm going to be representing them very well in that regard. The other that we have to talk about is the evangelicals have been so amazing to me. We had an event the other day in New York, right? Any evangelicals in the room? Any evangelicals? But we had an event, and Ben Carson called me, who was a great guy. We love Ben Carson. And he called and he said, you know, Donald, I'd love you to get with the evangelical leaders and Christian leaders all throughout the United States. Not a big deal. It'll take you maybe 15 or 20 minutes. But maybe you could see them, and maybe, I think it's a good thing for you to do. Now, I've won with the evangelicals in many, many of the states, South Carolina and Nevada and like all over the place. We've had great, great success. The South, Alabama, Arkansas, all over. And we've had unbelievable relationships and unbelievable success. But Ben wanted me to do it. As you know, when Ben got out, and he did really well, he was tough, he was a great competitor. He did really, really well when he ran. And he got out, and he called me, and he said, I love what's going on. You have a movement going on. This isn't like a normal thing. This is a movement. I would love to endorse you. I said, Ben, I would love to have your endorsement. Plenty of people are calling saying, we want to endorse you, and it's never been that important to me. I will say this, Bobby Knight in Indiana was important, right? Bobby Knight was important. But I said, I'd love to endorse you. Then he comes up and he goes, I'd love to meet. Now, it's not a big deal, maybe 150, maybe 200 people. And they could be here in a month in New York, but it would be a great thing. So all of a sudden, the time comes, and my people come in. They say, Mr. Trump, you won't believe it. It's packed. It's always packed. But it's the largest group of clergy, ministers, pastors, evangelicals, Christians, the largest group they've ever had by far, over 1,000. And they wanted to know, could we take 2 to 3 hours? So this was the 50. Ben is one of the greatest salesmen I know, right? He said, small group, 15 minutes. Turned out to be a large group, 3 hours. But it was an amazing event. It was an amazing, and I learned. But it was just an incredible group of people. Franklin Graham was there, and Jerry Falwell Jr. from Liberty College, who's a fantastic guy, and so many people, friends, real friends. Ralph Reed. We've had so many friends, and people that have really been helpful to me. And as an example, Liberty College, everybody goes through Liberty College, and we all make a speech. They have one of the most beautiful auditoriums, one of the most beautiful colleges I've ever seen, actually. And one of the most incredible auditoriums, and it holds 12,000 people, something like that. And I have the all-time record for attendance, which is really important. I got that 2 years ago, and I said, is it still intact? They said, yes, and I broke it this time, and I said, good. That's good. And they had closed-circuit television because the room was too small, even as big as it was. In all the classrooms, all over the school, they had closed-circuit television. And we had an amazing time. And to get the support, and everybody went there. I think every candidate went there. And because of what it represents, such importance. And what happened is, in the end, Jerry calls, he says, I want to endorse you. And that had such a huge impact because he's so respected. The school is so respected, the college, the university, so respected. And getting Jerry's support was such a great thing for me. So I just wanted to thank him, but I wanted to thank everybody because that was an amazing day we had about a week ago in New York City. It was packed and it was full of love. I will tell you that. It was full of love. So we'll talk for a little while about what's going on. I'm going to tell you some of the ideas that we want to have. I wrote down some notes in the plane because I didn't know I had this glass standing up here. In fact, it says right now, number 1, number 2. That's not meant for me. I want to thank Sarah Palin for being here because Sarah's great. Well, Sarah's a special person, and Sarah's another one where it came out of the blue, and she liked what I was saying, and she was also close with many of the other people that were running. And the word came back to me that Sarah was very interested, and we called her. And I can tell you there were very, very disappointed people that I was running against, on the Republican side I'm talking about. And they were very, very disappointed when Sarah came out for me. I'll tell you, that was a big event. And she's so loyal, and so amazing, and her family is so amazing. Her husband's an incredible guy. And for her to come here again and to say hello to you folks is just really something special. So I really appreciate that Sarah Palin was able to come here. So I wrote some notes there. Sarah has a big group. We do love Sarah, right? Look at that group. Wow. I'm not surprised. For good reason, by the way. So I want to give you some of the goals just quickly and easily, and you'll understand what they are. But, you know, the other night on television, I was looking, and certainly terrorism's actually number 2, I was surprised. It'll probably be number 1 pretty soon, because what's going on today in Israel, there was a horrible killing, and then there was another horrible killing in Oregon, and there was another one. I mean, what's going on now is unbelievable. People that shouldn't be allowed in. People that shouldn't be here. And we're going to have strong borders, folks. We're going to have strong borders. We're going to have the wall. And we're going to let people come into our country that should come into our country, and they're going to come into our country legally. They're going to come in legally. And we want them to come in, but they're going to come into our country legally. But one of the things I noticed, because it was on one of the networks where they had them listed in order, and actually they had the economy number 1, and I'm number 1 on the economy. That's good. And in fact, Rasmussen just came out with a poll yesterday afternoon, and Trump is number 1. I'm up 4 points. Can you believe that's not? That's nice. We're going to do very well. We're going to do. You know, in the primaries, one after one, bing, bong, bing, and people said, "What happened?" Just one after another, and you know we have the right message, and I'm just the messenger. I'm doing a good job as a messenger, I will say, okay? But I'm just a messenger, believe me. It's what I'm saying. It's what I'm saying about what's going on, and it's getting stronger. I think the message is getting stronger. We're being destroyed by trade, which we'll talk about. We're being destroyed at our borders, which we'll talk about. And we're allowing people to come into our country from Syria and other places that shouldn't be allowed to come into our country. We have no idea who they are, where they're from. We have no idea what's going on. They have no paperwork. They have no documentation. They could be ISIS. I used to say they're probably not, but now I say many of them probably are. You see what's happening in Germany. You see what's happening in Sweden. You see what's happening in some of these countries where they're taking them in. It's a nightmare. And I have a bigger heart than anybody, or as big as anybody in this room. And I will tell you, we're going to do safe zones in Syria. We're going to get other people to pay for them. The Gulf states have a lot of money. People don't ask them to pay. Trump is going to ask them to pay. You're going to have to pay. And we'll get it done. Believe me, we'll get it done. So one thing I just wanted to say, we're going to repeal and replace Obamacare. Healthcare was third on the list. And honestly, I was surprised to see it. Healthcare on this list. It was the economy, it was terrorism, and it was healthcare, which tells you something. You know, in Texas, they go through Blue Cross Blue Shield. They had a 60% increase. You're going to have an increase like you've never seen before on November 1st. Now, they're trying to delay the increase till after the election. We can't let that happen because this increase is an election-changing increase. Now, I hope we don't even need that. But this is an election-changing increase that you're going to get. I'm hearing numbers like higher than the numbers in Texas. So 60% in Texas going through Blue Cross, Blue Shield, you got the Obamacare, 60% increase, think of it. Unimaginable. Well, it's also horrible because your premiums are going up, your deductibles are through the roof, and unless you die a really, really severe long-term death, you're not going to use it because your deductibles are so high. Your deductibles are through the roof, and people don't even get to use it. So they're paying more than ever, and they don't get to use it. And we're going to change that. We're going to repeal and replace Obamacare, and we're going to get something so much better and so much less expensive. Okay. I already talked about the fact we're going to save the Second Amendment, right? That's a biggie. We're going to eliminate job-killing regulations. The regulations in this country are killing us. We're going to have massive tax reform and simplification, a big lowering of the taxes, the biggest of anybody by far. Hillary Clinton is raising your taxes. She's raising your taxes substantially, and there won't be simplification. We're lowering your taxes. You watch what's going to happen with the economy. We're lowering your taxes, big league, and tremendous simplification. We're lowering business taxes. We're going to allow money. We have trillions of dollars outside of the United States owned by really the corporations have this money. They can't get it back into the country. And everybody agrees, Republicans, Democrats, that it should come back in. They can't make a deal. That's a deal that would take 5 minutes sitting around the room. But there's no leadership. So we have trillions of dollars. Who would not want to make that deal? They say $2.5 trillion. I say it's over $5 trillion. But whatever it is, it's massive. And companies, corporate inversion. Companies are leaving the United States because taxes are too high, but they're also leaving to get their money. They can't get their money back in, so they leave to get their money. So it's crazy. We're going to appoint Supreme Court justices who you're going to be very happy with. Such a big thing. And these are justices that will uphold the Constitution of the United States and fully uphold it, right? And you know what's going to happen, and I sort of get a kick. You have these people. Look, it was a tough campaign. It was a brutal campaign. Some of the people that do this professionally said it was the most brutal campaign in the history of politics in this country. I don't know if that's true or not, but we started off with 17 people, and there were a lot of bad things said, and there was one person that came out, and I understand. I understand. But they were really nasty to me, and I was really nasty to them. And some of them just can't understand the importance of a victory for the Republicans. And one of the best things we can say are the judges, because, we can talk about the strong military. We're going to do all of the things. But the judges, we're going to appoint at least 3. You have Scalia, who is great. And who would have thought that was going to happen? That wasn't going to be for many years. And all of a sudden, Justice Scalia was gone. So you have that one before you start. And then you probably have 2 more. You could even have 3. And you could even have 4 more. I mean, frankly, you got a lot. Probably going to be a record in the history of this country for a president. Could have as many as, you could have, including Justice Scalia, you could have as many as 5. Probably we'll have 3. But that's the difference between having our country as a great country and having Venezuela, okay? And you see what's happening over there. Believe me. Where they're fighting over loaves of bread in the street. I mean, that's a tremendous thing. And what I did, because I've only been doing this for 12 months, so what I've done, in fact, they said one of the articles had, it was 211 years of experience. They added up everybody. They had 211 years versus 11 months. And look who won. Isn't that good? I mean, don't we get credit for that? I think experience is a great thing, but I think we're getting tired of the experience because the experience wasn't working, folks, right? But because of the fact that I haven't been out there as a politician, people know me, but I haven't been out there as a politician, a lot of people have said to me, Senator Sessions, who's a fantastic man, and others, they've said, it wouldn't be bad. And I actually went in with the idea because I was getting criticized. They said, well, what happens if he appoints judges that we don't like? So I went to the Federalist Society, which is sort of the gold standard. Now, Hillary Clinton said the gold standard of trade deals is TPP. Now she's taken that back. You saw that, right? When you mentioned, TPP will destroy you, folks. It will destroy, it'll take any vestige that we still have left in our country, it will destroy you. And she said it. Now, what happened is when she heard me being very critical of it, she realized I was right. So she said now she's against it, but she's going to approve it in 2 seconds if she ever won. And that will be as bad or worse than NAFTA, which was, by the way, signed by her husband, okay? So we'll be. So I went out and I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pick 10 judges or 11 judges, and we'll see what happens. And I picked 11, gotten from the Federalist Society, run through by a lot of great politicians that I know that are highly respected, senators and congressmen and great people, and loved. Went through Heritage, who's great, Jim DeMint in the group, who's a great guy. Jim is a great guy. We like Jim. Listen to you people. Wow. He is a great guy. Then we ran him through Heritage, and these are 11 people. I think I'm going to pick 4 more. So I have 15, and I'll pick from that list or people like that, exactly like that. And we're going to have great judges. And it had a big impact. But you still have people out there, and it's just one of those things. You know, one of the things I'm most proud about is that in the history of the Republican Party, with 17 people running, I had the most votes of anybody that's ever run in the primaries. We had almost 14 million votes. Think of it. Won 37 states. Next time it's going to be Colorado, by the way. Colorado is not in that 37. Don't worry. If it was, I'd still be here today. But we had 37 states, and we had the largest number of votes. Now, when you think about it, almost 14 million votes, and it wasn't even close. Ronald Reagan, who we love. You have the Bushes. You have Dwight D. Eisenhower, Richard Nixon, everybody. You have everybody. Just so much more than anybody else. Wasn't even close. But think of it. They would run against 2 people, 1 person, 4 people. When you break that record and you're running against 17 very capable people, that's really a record that is pretty amazing. More amazing than even just winning. So I was very honored by that. We're going to protect our country from terrorism. Okay, folks? We're going to protect our country from terrorism. We are going to be so tough. We are going to be so smart and so vigilant. And we're going to get it so that people turn in people when they know there's something going on. Like in San Bernardino. People saw bombs all over these people's floors. They had bombs all over the floor. They saw it. People saw it. And they talked about racial profiling and profiling. We didn't want to turn them in because we didn't want to get accused of profiling. Give me a break. You know what that is? That's a lawyer telling them, listen, you better say that because otherwise you're in big trouble. But people have to turn people in. And if they don't turn them in, we're going to have so many of these things. What happened in Orlando is disgraceful. Disgraceful that a thing like that can happen. And then they don't want to mention what happened. We have a president that doesn't want to mention what really happened. It's called radical Islamic terrorism, right? That's what happened. And you have crooked Hillary Clinton that didn't want to mention it either, but we shamed her into it, but she still hasn't mentioned it. She said, I will say, and then she didn't quite use the expression the way it should be. But I will say radical Islam. I will say it. Okay? But she's never said it yet. She said she will say it because we shamed her into it. Just like we shamed her into going against TPP. Was that the only reason she didn't do it? She'll do it, but not for the election. Because people are sick and tired of being ripped off with our jobs leaving our states, with our jobs leaving our country, with the money. They get the money, they get the jobs, we get nothing. We get unemployment. That's what we get. We get unemployment and no taxes. And folks, we can solve that situation so easily. That situation is so easily solved. I've been watching for a long time, and I've been watching it very, very closely, how the government is trying to stop jobs from leaving our country. I left yesterday in New Hampshire, where I see building after building just got wiped out. New England, one of the worst places in terms of that. Upstate New York, a disaster. Pennsylvania, a disaster. Maryland, Connecticut, all states that I won in massive numbers. I mean, I had a series of states, 5 or 6 states in a row, where I won every single county in every single state. A lot of that, thank you. You know, starting with New York and starting with all of these great states, and there was love. I went to West Virginia, and Hillary said, we're going to put the miners out of business. We're going to put the mines and the miners out of business. She then went, got a couple of miners back there. She then went to West Virginia. Can you believe it? And she apologized, but the statement was made, folks. That's what she's going to do. These are liars. These are liars. She tried to convince people. She tried to convince people that what she said she didn't mean, let's go. Remember, she was sitting down with a coal miner in West Virginia whose family's been devastated. And we had an event in West Virginia, and it was very interesting because after I won New York, for some reason, I said, we're going to put the miners back to work. And I didn't say it even for a reason. I didn't even know which was next, and West Virginia was going to be on the list. But West Virginia, we have such a lead. I think we have a 25 or a 29-point lead in West Virginia, as an example, and in other places. In other places, we're doing great in Pennsylvania. We're doing great in Ohio. We're doing great sort of everywhere, much better than the press would have you believe, although the polls have really gotten much tighter in the last few days. But, I mean, much, much tighter. So we're going to win what? Colorado. We got to win this one. Man. Oh, if we lose this. And we do have to win Colorado. I'll be back a lot. Don't worry about it. I'll be back a lot. It's going to be, I see the poll. We're either even or 1 point up in Colorado, so we got to lift that up a little bit. But we're going to be back. We'll be back a lot. No, it's very important. It's a very important state in terms of winning the election. A very, very important state. We have states where, we have a tremendous lead and where they have a tremendous lead. One of the things that's happening with us is that we play, meaning us, meaning me, play in a lot of states that a Republican, more traditional Republican, doesn't play. We're going to do great in states like Michigan. I think we're going to do great. They've been devastated by job loss. They've been devastated. I think we're going to do great in Illinois. Normally a Republican, if somebody else won, they would never go to Illinois. I'm going to spend a lot of time in Illinois. I'm going to spend a lot of time in Michigan. I think we're going to win. I've been talking about cars moving to Mexico, car companies, Ford, moving to Mexico for 2 years, long before I even knew we'd be in this position. Nobody has been better to the state of Michigan and to the car industry than me in terms of what I'm saying and what I'm going to do to get the car companies back, number one, and to keep them from moving, because they're going to continue to move like you've never seen before if I don't win. We're going to have job loss like you've never seen ever before if I don't win. So I think we're going to play great in Michigan. Even in Connecticut, there was a poll that came out. This is a state that I love. I have so many friends that live in Connecticut. But this is a state that a Republican, a traditional Republican, would never spend one afternoon in terms of getting votes. And I'm going to spend a lot of time in Connecticut. And we may even give a shot to New York and California because we have tremendous crowds. We're getting 30, 35,000 people going to these places. So we're going to play in a lot of states that normally, obviously, Ohio and Pennsylvania and Florida, those are your states that everybody says you have to win, you have to win. But I think we have a lot more leeway than anybody else running for office from the Republican Party, and I think we're going to do great in these places. We want to uphold, totally uphold, the rule of law, not being upheld, not being upheld, okay? We want to cut down on the unbelievable crime that's pouring in and the crime rate generally, okay? We want to keep our children safe. We want to keep ourselves safe, but we have to. We have to. So many friends of mine, Jamil, as an example, Shaw, his son was killed by a person that came into this country, an illegal immigrant, should have never, ever been here. Kate, as you remember from San Francisco, shot viciously by somebody that was sent out of the country 5 times and will probably get off. I see the lawyer and they're saying, oh, maybe it wasn't him, and oh, it's terrible. It'll go on for years and years and years, what happened to Kate and so many others, so many others. And we're going to have a country where we can be free to walk around and free to walk the streets and free to look at the beautiful Golden Gate Bridge with your father, like Kate was doing, and then shot from nowhere. We're going to have a country that's going to be safe again. Just remember that. We're going to have a country that's going to be safe. And we're not going to play games. We're not going to be politically correct, perhaps. But we're going to have a country that's going to be safe. We're going to make our government so important, responsible to the people, not to the special interests. The special interests control your government, folks. The special interests. I mean, you see what happened today, where Bill Clinton goes in the other day into an airplane. Just happened to be, oh, just a coincidence, you know. He just happened to be at the airport at this time. Think of it. Just happened to be at the airport. You know, when I first heard the story, I said, no, you're kidding. I don't believe it. I thought somebody was joking. But it's not a joke. It's not a joke. It's a very serious thing. And to have a thing like that happen is so sad. And as you know, Hillary is so guilty. She's so guilty. I mean, you can read them right off here. And how that's not being pursued properly. And I think that he really opened it up. He opened up a Pandora's box, and it shows what's going on, and it shows what's happening with our laws and with our government. But if you think that he just happened to be at the airport, because nobody really, and he may have, and honestly, he may have left and gone someplace, but it seems like, you know, he's talking about golf and grandchildren. I love my grandchildren so much. But if I talk about them for more than about 9 or 10 seconds, you know, what do we... I love my grandchildren. I love that one. I love that one. I love that one. And look at the beautiful... I love these kids. After that, what are you going to say, right? I love those kids. They're the great 8. I love them. I love my children. I love my children. My children are going to be speaking at the convention. My children are all going to be speaking. Ivanka, Tiffany, Don, Eric, they're going to be speaking. My wife is going to be speaking at the convention. We're going to have a great time. And then you have to talk about golf for the rest of the time. And, you know, I love golf, but after talking for a couple of minutes, it's hard to talk about it much longer than. And above all, what we're going to do, so important, we're going to put America first. I have to say it. We don't put America first. We don't put America first. We don't put America first. And we have to.